Utility Sports Video today is brought to you by Manscaped, the best company in the world when it comes to men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family's jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the Performance Package 4.0. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you from Utility Sports. Use code UTILITY20 for 20% off plus free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. Again, use code UTILITY20, UTILITY20 at manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping. Does your current hygiene routine leave you with a whole bunch of nicks, cuts, and overall just a hassle? Well, luckily for you, the Performance Package 4.0 has arrived, and wow, is it a game changer. Manscaped sent us this package so we could share how great it is with you, our awesome viewers. Inside this package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker nose and hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a free travel bag to hold your goodies. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof, has a phenomenal LED light to help you with precise accuracy, and is a 4th generation trimmer which features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. Additionally, the Weed Whacker nose and hair trimmer is waterproof and does a really good job keeping your skin safe and protected. The Crop Preserver and ball deodorant plus Crop Reviver toner are game changers when it comes to your hygiene routine. Trust me, you'll never look back and your balls will thank you. Performance Boxer briefs and the travel bag are free gifts on behalf of Manscaped as part of this awesome Performance Package 4.0. I love wearing and rocking all of Manscaped's products, and you should too. Make sure to check them out using code UTILITY20 on manscaped.com. Remember, this is specifically for our viewers here at Utility Sports. A 20% off discount code plus free shipping when you use the code UTILITY20 at manscaped.com. Yes, 20% off plus free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com when you use code UTILITY20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at the Philadelphia Eagles, specifically at this offseason, where they could have a ton of things go right for this franchise that could really shape the direction of this team for the long haul. They're in a phenomenal spot. So Eagles fans, if you are excited, make sure to leave a like on today's video. Also subscribe to the channel because we do a ton of stuff with the NFL draft. We're going to be taking a long look at NFL offseason, free agency. We're going to be doing some live streams. Everything that you need to know about the Philadelphia Eagles will be here on this channel. So make sure to subscribe, leave a like. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Throughout this video, there's a lot of things that maybe you guys have different opinions on that I'd love to hear from you. And without further ado, let's jump into it here. Looking at a video preview, we're going to start with quarterback Jalen Hurts. My thought on him this season, what I saw from him. Of course, season didn't end the way you'd hope for it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a really good team, went toe-to-toe with the team now representing the NFC in the Super Bowl in the Los Angeles Rams. They were a good team. Eagles a little outmatched in that one, but Jalen Hurts, I think there's a lot of promise there. GM Howie Roseman, how he's going to steer the ship this year. I think there's quite a few players that he's going to target throughout free agency, the re-sign period, and also when you look at the NFL draft, he has a pretty good track record in my opinion, so I think he's going to do a good job navigating this offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. Moving forward, we're going to look into a roster overview. Guys, we already got under contract on both sides of the football. And then additionally, looking at guys that they have to re-sign. And then really at that point, we're going to get a good look at who they have, what areas of need this team is going to have when it comes to free agency. And then lastly, the NFL draft, players they could look to target, which picks they have, how much cap space that they're going to have throughout free agency and after. This Eagles team is well set up though. And I think the best place to start, is looking at quarterback Jalen Hurts. You see his stats are on the screen, nearly 3,200 pass yards, completed over 61% of his balls this season, 16 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. but really his added value comes on the ground. Almost 800 rush yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, and the big one there, one that doesn't really get talked about, is a common statistic, 56 first downs. That is massive for a quarterback to be able to use his legs that often to pick up first downs, keep drives alive. Jalen Hurts is one of the best in the NFL when it comes to keeping drives alive using his legs. Pinnacle key third downs. He does a great job driving this Eagles offense. And I think that they do need to put a little bit more talent around him, especially at the wide receiver position. I know some Eagles fans a little so-so on that thought, but I think he would be benefited by another good receiver that can work across the middle of the field. And then the question really is Jalen Hurts the long-term guy? That is a question that is going to be answered going into next season, I think. I think this first year was a really good sign that he can be, but I think we really will have that answer next year once defenses get to see him a little bit more, maybe have more stuff on film to prepare for him and then counteract what he does. I think he'll be very, very successful in his career, and I think he's going to be someone who probably will be the guy for the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do want to wait another season before we fully know if he is the long-term answer. Eagles fans, let me know what you think in the comment section. Again, I'm pretty hopeful that he can be, but at the same time, I would like to see a little bit more of him at that quarterback position for the Eagles. Moving into GM Howie Roseman, the guy who drafted Jalen Hurts, when he had Carson Wentz on the roster, in his time as GM, he's 192-1. So the Eagles have been above 500 with him steering the ship since becoming the general manager back in 2010. He's had 6 trips to the playoffs in that duration of time, including a Super Bowl win. The NFC East is a very competitive division. Pretty much each and every year, it feels like we have a different winner in that division representing the NFC East. And the Eagles, they've done a good share of winning throughout his time as GM. You look at some of the decisions he's made, he's been really gutsy with some of his moves and has done a really good job putting this team in position. One of the things I think he does really well is figuring out the quarterback spot. You know, when he drafted Carson Wentz looked like he was going to be someone who emerges into a superstar. Of course, his injuries, I think, really derailed that. Wide receiver play was really poor as well. I think Carson Wentz is still a pretty solid quarterback, but I think they did make the right move moving on from him when he did. He got a first-round pick now from Indiana in that deal from the Indianapolis Colts, and I think he's really set himself up for a lot of success into the future as well. Of course, Eagles fans, you do know that you have 3 first-round picks this year, picks 15, 16, and 19. The Eagles are really well set up. Howie Roseman makes a ton of good moves. The transition to Jalen Hurts was seamless. He got the right head coach in Nick Sirianni, and I think this Eagles team is moving in the right direction. They've got a good blend of youth and a good blend of age and veteran leadership. This team is really set across the board when it comes to the talent on this roster. I think he does a good job finding value free agents as well, and just putting out a good product every single weekend. You know, there's been a couple of years where they've only been a 4-win team under his navigation, but it's never 2 years back to back. And I think that really goes to show how good of a GM that Howie Roseman can be. I know some Eagles fans are a little tired of him. Don't worry. A lot of times GMs don't last as long as he already has. I think he is a pretty good one, and they're in a pretty good position because of him. Roster overview. Let's look at what they have on their roster. The offensive side of the ball has a little bit more talent sticking this season than the defensive side. So we're going to start there on offense. QB room is filled out. Jalen Hurts, Gardner Minshew, really 2 good, solid quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew can come in. He was a big part in keeping the Eagles in the playoff race when Jalen Hurts did miss some time this year. Running back room, you have some solid players there. Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell. I don't think you have an elite running back, but you do have 2 good ones that can be used in different ways. Miles Sanders, pretty good runner of the football. Kenneth Gainwell, really good pass catcher. And I think could take the ball as a ball handler, carrier for a little bit of a spellback role for Miles Sanders. You look at the wide receiver room. They've at least got one big-time guy with Devontae Smith, of course. You took him last year in the top 10. It was a really good pickup for that team. You also considered Jalen Reagor here, wide receiver. He's okay. I mean, of course, the one that hurts is them drafting him over Justin Jefferson. Eagles fans, I'm not going to try and bring that up too much for you. And quick correction on the Devontae Smith thing. I said top 10. I meant top 15. Tight end Dallas Goedert. He's an absolute hit. They went from Zach Ertz to Dallas Goedert. It was seamless. Goedert's one of the better tight ends in all of football right now. He's a key part to this offense, security blanket for Jalen Hurts. And I think he's going to have a huge role going forward. Then the offensive line. They've got some nice pieces there already under contract. You look at Lane Johnson, one of the better tackles in the NFL. Landon Dickerson played a little bit of guard this year, but you also know he can play that center position. There's a big question around Jason Kelce right now. if he's going to be back, if he's going to retire. We'll get to him a little bit later in this video. Offensive tackles, you got Jordan Mailata and Andre Dillard. They're two solid pieces. Dillard maybe not turning in and blossoming into what a lot of people thought he could be, but he's still a decent tackle, could be a swing tackle at the very worst. Isaac Seumalo and also Brandon Brooks, two solid guards. So this offensive line is pretty well set. I think they could use a little bit more of an upgrade there. Could look at a guard in round one, maybe an interior offensive lineman just in general. And a tackle wouldn't hurt either. But the Eagles, they've got so much different avenues right now, so many different avenues that they could really build this team up in a ton of different ways. It's hard to pin down exactly what they're going to do, which is one of the best things possible for an NFL GM because he's got flexibility and there's a lot of versatility in his offseason up to this point. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, this is where they got to improve. Right now under contract, they got Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, two solid defensive ends. Then you're looking up the middle, Fletcher Cox, who they chose to hold on to. I think that's going to pay off well for him. Phenomenal piece. And you also have Javon Hargrave, another really meaty D tackle in there. He's a pretty solid player himself. And then two key cornerbacks under contract, Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox. The rest of this defense, though, needs some work. Both of their safeties are expiring contracts. You also look at the linebacker room. It's pretty wide open right now. The Eagles need to improve in those areas specifically. So we're going to find ways to do that this offseason here for them. And now as we move forward into roster overview for players headed to free agency, we have center Jason Kelsey, safety Rodney McLeod, safety Anthony Harris, edges Derek Barnett, Ryan Kerrigan, who played a pretty big role for this team, running back Boston Scott, and then also cornerback Steven Nelson. Key player here, I'd put him on the graphic. That's center Jason Kelsey. He is a really, really good center, one of the best centers in the NFL, quite frankly. And I think he's someone who they're going to really miss if they do lose him either to retirement or in free agency. I think this is priority one for the Eagles, is to find out what's happening with Jason Kelsey, if he is going to hang him up or not, and then try and keep him on this roster. He's been a staple for that offensive line, and center doesn't really get enough credit throughout the NFL for how important it is for picking up pass protection, helping with blitz assignments, and also really establishing dominance in the run game. And it's tough also to lose two safeties in one offseason. So I think looking at this team, I think they're going to try and find ways to retain at least one of these two safeties between Rodney McLeod and Anthony Harris. It's just tough to replace two in one offseason. So I think they'll try and find a way to keep one of those guys. My guess would have to be McLeod at this point. I think Anthony Harris is going to have some interesting suitors as a playmaker. Edge Derek Barnett, I know that the Eagles have been shopping him for some time. I think he's played his last down as a Philadelphia Eagle. However, I don't have the best read on that. So Eagles fans, let me know what you think about Derek Barnett in the comments section. And then the other guys there, they're players that they would like to have back, but ultimately if the price tag gets to a point where they're not happy, they'll be fine without him. Okay. Moving in forward now to free agency. Currently, the Eagles are estimated to have about $15 million in cap space. That is, of course, according to Spot Track. They do a ton of great stuff when it comes to cap space management, keeping an eye on all these teams' contracts and really evaluating with where they're at. So big shout out to them for aiding me in this video because of the data that they collect. Moving into free agent targets with that $15 million, it might not be enough for this top guy, but you could do some other nice damage across some of these other guys. And there always is the avenue for restructuring a couple of contracts to try and open up some money. And the top guy here for me is JC Jackson, an elite cornerback, probably the best player hitting free agency this season. When you consider his age, he's young and the best of his career is ahead of him. JC Jackson can be a phenomenal pickup for whichever team gets him. I think the Eagles should show some interest, put him across from Darius Slay, and then you use Avonte Maddox in the slot a little bit. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily see JC Jackson being the guy that they're going to be able to pull. So let's focus on Mike Hughes, someone who's a former first-round pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Didn't work out there, got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, and had a pretty good establishment year for himself in Kansas City. Became more of a well-known cornerback based off his play in the NFL. And I think he's going to be someone who is rather intriguing for teams when you consider what he could provide as an outside cornerback. Linebacker Jaylen Brown is a phenomenal option here out of Tennessee. Last year, re-signed with them on a one-year deal, got himself another opportunity to go into free agency. He's a big part of that Tennessee defense. I think he's going to be a big part of the Philadelphia Eagles if he does sign there. You could get him on a pretty good contract. I'm guessing 4 years, 52 might be the high end of his value, which is pretty solid for what he provides as a pass cover linebacker. And the Eagles really need some stability in free agency. Now, I know Howie Roseman does not generally look at linebacker in the first round, so this is perhaps an avenue to address that position. Wide receiver Russell Gage, I have him pictured on the screen. I also have wide receiver Adam Humphries, because I think that there's a little bit of a need there in Philadelphia for Jalen Hurts to get some easier passes across. I know Devontae Smith translates as an elite deep threat, and I think he's a pretty solid receiver in general, but I think they could use a little bit more help out of the slot this next season. Russell Gage, Adam Humphries do most of their work from the slot and could be a really nice security blanket, help that completion percentage rise a little bit, and help pick up more positive yard plays in the future. And then also I have safety Matthias Farley on here, mostly been a third string safety in his career, being the third best safety on the team, meaning he doesn't really play a ton except for when a team's in the nickel occasionally. Then he'll go onto the field, or in the dime package he'll play a little bit, but he's been a lot of special teams in his career. I think he could help the Eagles on special teams, but I think he could also, worst case, if they lose both McLeod and Farley, at least play a little bit of meaningful snaps at the safety position. This next season, he's going to be relatively cheap, still under the age of 30. So I think he's someone that would be well worth targeting at a very low price point, which would help the Eagles with some roster flexibility with some of these other guys that they're going to look to sign in free agency. After free agency, of course, we do have the NFL draft here. And what an exciting time for Eagles fans. Again, if you're excited Eagles fans, leave a like and subscribe, because in the first round, we have 3 picks here, 15, 16, and 19. Those are 3 phenomenal assets. Then you have pick 51 in the second round, pick 83 in the third round. And you also have round 4, 3 round 5 picks, and a round 6 pick. So there's a lot to be looking forward to. If you're an Eagles fan, this is a good opportunity to add a lot of depth and some really key contributors. For me, looking at the Eagles with 3 first-round picks, they do have a lot of flexibility here. They could try and package some of these picks up and move up for a guy they absolutely love. As well, if there's 2 guys that they love between that 10 to 20 mark, maybe they trade one of these picks down, pick up some more day 2 assets, and then look to get more depth that way as well. There is a ton of flexibility. They could stick as well and make a selection at all 3 picks. Those are the 3 options for them, and it's really going to come down to who they like in the NFL draft. And here are some potential targets I laid out for the Philadelphia Eagles. Starting with edge, David Ojabo. I think a lot of Eagles fans are going to see exactly what I'm saying here when I talk about the need for a little bit more speed and athleticism off the edge. Derek Barnett, he's played really meaningful snaps for the Eagles, including a huge play in the Super Bowl back when they won it. But I think that you would want to add someone who gets off the end a little bit quicker and maybe can get to the QB a little bit faster. And that's what David Ojabo does. He's also really phenomenal at forcing the ball out, getting strips. He does it all off the edge. He was huge for Michigan this past year, and I think he could be a phenomenal pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 15. Then we also have cornerback Ahmad Gardner out of Cincinnati. It's no surprise that Howie Roseman likes to draft from Cincinnati, has a pretty good track record drafting from there as well. So I think he could be a phenomenal pickup again from the Cincinnati Bearcats for the Eagles. Cornerback Andrew Booth Jr., he's a pretty solid cornerback himself. This is another guy who could be a boundary corner down the road, which I think the Eagles badly need to look at. Then I have 2 linebackers on here, which I know Eagles fans are already typing in the comment section. Whoa, we don't take linebackers in round 1. Yes, but you've also never had 3 first-round picks in one draft. I think here is the time for the Eagles, looking at what they have on their roster, looking at the draft assets that they have. They can afford to spend a first-round pick on a linebacker. There's 2 great options here. It depends on what you're looking for, Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean. For me, I would opt for Devin Lloyd out of Utah. He's a better pass cover linebacker than Nakobe Dean. I think he's more transcendent for where the NFL's at, especially when you look at what's in division with Dallas. You also have to be able to handle teams like Washington. You also have to match up with the Giants, who like to get their players involved in the pass game, especially now with the hiring of Brian Dable there. I think Devin Lloyd's the better fit into that division, but I think Nakobe Dean could be a real thumper as well for them, get into the backfield, make a ton of plays. So either way, I think they would be happy. In fact, even if they went with both of them, it would be pretty crazy. Their linebacking core would go from non-existent essentially at this point to phenomenal really, really quickly. Then I have 2 interior offensive linemen listed here as well, Tyler Linderbaum and Kenyon Green. Linderbaum, of course, is a center. Now, it depends on their evaluation of Landon Dickerson, if they want to stick him at guard long-term or if they do see him as the long-term center. But either way, Linderbaum, he's flexible too. You can play him at guard. He's great in the run game. Can get to the second level, very smart player. And if you have him at guard, that's fine. You get more depth in case you do have a center injury. He can slide over. Kenyon Green, he's going to be that true guard for you, but he's more athletic than Linderbaum. He's better at pull situations, and I think could become a real mauler in the run game for them. Then I have safety Jaquan Brisker here, and I think this is one of those that make a lot of sense. He's a real thumper. He's going to make the middle of the field very dangerous for opposing wide receivers because he's not going to shy away from leaving a hit. He's going to make sure you feel him if you're working across the middle. He could be a nice help to those cornerbacks and also those linebackers in front of him. He's going to get involved in the run game, and he's from Pennsylvania, played at Penn State this past year, so I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him from the Philadelphia Eagles scouting staff, and then also wide receiver Garrett Wilson. If they do opt for a wideout, Garrett Wilson, if he's available 15, 16, or 19, I think they're going to pause long and hard and really consider him, what he could be, runs the full route tree, can be a really big time receiver, especially on third downs, gives Jalen Hurts another option. If he doesn't need to use his legs, that's good because you can keep him fresh throughout a season. And then when he has to use his legs, he has the ability to. But I think getting him another wide receiver threat would be well thought out. For me, I would opt for the defensive route here, where you try and get an edge, cornerback, and linebacker in round 1. To me, that's the really attractive route because in day 2, there's still a ton of other good players out there offensively. You could look at a guy like John Mechie out of Alabama. He could be a big time production guy for you working across the middle of the field. He's had a really good career at Alabama, never being the number 1 guy. He's played alongside Devontae Smith in the past, and I think there's going to be a ton of success for him in the NFL in a non-highlighted wide receiver 1 type of role, and that's exactly where he'd fit in Philadelphia. He'd be the wide receiver 2, and I think be really productive in that role. And then if the Eagles do hold true to their draft history, even with those 3 first-round picks, don't draft a linebacker, they can't afford getting out of rounds 2 and 3 without one. There's 2 options here: Christian Harris, Chad Muma. You could also consider a guy like Henry To'oTo'o out of Alabama. Any of those 3 would be really, really good for this Eagles team. I have running back Kenneth Walker on here, which I know might come as a surprise. I don't think running back is their most pressing need, but if they're ever looking at the board and saying, hey, let's just go best player available, Kenneth Walker is someone who I think would apply in that area just because of how good he is at making guys miss in the open field. Very shifty and elusive running back, and I think would elevate what the floor of this rushing offense could be. Then I have 2 really good offensive tackles here that offer athleticism: Zion Nelson, Daniel Falele. Falele is huge, and he's going to be a massive power run blocker. And then Zion Nelson, he's athletic, can play a little bit of guard, could stick him at tackle, gives you some versatility across the offensive line. I feel like I keep saying the word versatility and flexibility, but when you're a GM, those are really the most important things you're looking for when building a team, because you have to plan for some of the worst things to happen. Injuries, guy goes down, you lose him for a season. You want to have guys who can kick around and do a multitude of things for you. And Zion Nelson, someone who could probably help you in that area. Then also edge Drake Jackson here, a really freak athlete edge out of USC. Has a ton of production in his career as well. I think he's someone who's been slept on up to this point in the draft process. I don't think he'll go in round 1, even though I think he is deserving of going in round 1. I think he'd be a massive steal for the Eagles if he's available at pick 51. Moving into day 3, at this point, it's going to be really dependent on what they've done on days 1 and 2. So I don't want to get too specific here on certain prospects, but I do want to talk about things I'll look for them doing, which is finding some offensive line depth. They need a little bit more help at tackle long-term, get a guy on a rookie deal. Then you also have to look at some more linebacker, cornerback depth. Right now, there's 2 cornerbacks on this roster I would really trust next season, and about maybe half a linebacker I'd really trust. I think that they just need to find guys who can actually plug and play. I'd also like to see them stab at running back, try and find a guy who could be that third guy, maybe fill the Boston Scott role. We know they like to rotate their running backs in and keep legs fresh, and you have to plan for some injuries at some point. So it's important to add fresh legs into that running back room whenever you can, especially in the later part of the draft, and then tight end room as well. I think you make a stab at a guy in the tight end room, someone who's maybe either athletic or really good as a run blocker, and really just trying to establish a certain identity with this team a little bit more than Jalen Hurts' legs. I think you want to try and get a little bit more like the Baltimore Ravens. I think that's really the team you want to model yourself after with the way that they're able to run the ball outside of Lamar Jackson. When you look at what J.K. Dobbins did as a rookie, he was phenomenal, averaged like 6 yards a carry. If you could get that out of one of your running backs, you'd become one of the best offenses in football simply because of your ability to move the ball on the ground consistently. And I think that they're going to have to find ways to really build that identity up. And I think there's a good pathway for this team to do it with the assets that they have in place. They're really, really well set. And I'm excited for what the Eagles are going to be into the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video. Again, if you did, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and then use code utility20 for 20% off plus free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. It would be awesome. I really highly recommend their products. They got a lot of great stuff. Lawnmower 4.0 is great, as is all their stuff. I think they have really good products just in general. I love all the stuff that they sent me, and I hope you guys do really give them a good look and get yourself 20% off as well using that code utility20. Thanks so much again, guys, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.